In this video, I'm going to be talking about my Asahi-inspired Japanese rice lager. Before I talk about the beer, here's some footage of the brew day. So, here's the final product. Try and let you get a good look at that. So, as I said before, this is my Japanese rice lager. It's inspired by Asahi. I suppose the story behind this beer is there's a popular restaurant chain in the UK, Wagamama's. Really good, like Japanese and Asian style food. Me and my other half love eating there, and this is the beer they have on draft there. Well, not this, not mine, but Asahi is the beer they have on tap there, and it always seems to go really well with that food. We always really enjoy drinking it over there, so I thought I'd give it a go and make a beer my other half enjoys, because she doesn't enjoy a lot of the beers I make. Yeah. There it is. Pretty good clarity. So, the recipe for this one is 3.5 kilograms of lager malt. I use Simpsons lager malt. So that's 73.7% of the grist. 1 kilogram of Jasmine Rice, 21.1% of the grist. That I put through my grain mill on a pretty fine crush just to sort of crack the rice. As you saw back in the brewing footage, you can see the consistency it was at after I crushed it. And then 250 gram of Dextrin malt for 5.3% of the grist, just for a bit of head retention. I mashed that at half an hour at 50 degrees as a sort of protein rest to condition that rice. Oh, because I didn't cook the rice beforehand, I had to do that. And then 1 hour at 64 degrees to get this beer really dry at the finish. Then onto the boil, it was just a 1 hour boil. 35 grams of Saaz at an hour for 20.9 IBUs, and 25 grams of Saaz at 15 minutes for 7.4 IBU, for a total of a 28 IBU beer. The beer, I've pitched 2 packets of Diamond Yeast into this one, and I actually pitched them at 20 degrees and then let the beer cool down to 16 degrees in my fermentation chamber, just because I know with 3470 you can kind of push it a bit, and a lot of people who spec Diamond lager yeast from Lallemand is the same yeast but a little bit cheaper. So I thought I'd give it a go, pitching it warmer. Still fermented at 16, which is still warm for a lager really. To help it finish out at the end, I raised it to 21 degrees for a couple of days and then 22, just to ensure it was down as low as it could go, because I wanted this to be a nice dry beer. So the starting gravity was 1048, which was bang on target, which worked out really well because in brew father I just put flaked rice for the rice edition, not really knowing what else to put, and it went down to 1008, so it was a little bit drier than I expected, but that's fine. So it's 5.3%, which to me, about bang on. I'd go between 5 and 5.5 on a lager. I think that's what a lot of the more premium macro lagers are. Any more detail on the beer? I think that's about it. The fermentation, it took off pretty well at that temperature. And yeah, it doesn't seem to have any negative effects on the beer, but that's what we'll talk about now. So starting with appearance, it's bloody clear. It's not as clear as the real thing because, well, I think they use like big breweries use like actual like filtration that's not available to us home brewers to get the beers like completely perfectly clear, but it's pretty clear. It's one of the clearer beers I've made, but I think, I could be wrong on this, but I sometimes think with lighter beers, they don't end up looking as clear sometimes, if that makes sense. Like if there was some crystal in this to darken it up a bit, sometimes it looks clearer to me, just I suppose it's just a trick of the light. Colour wise, it's real pale. I'd say paler than the real thing. But I don't know if that's when you're talking about macro beers and stuff like that, or from like even smaller breweries as well. I don't know if it's just like kettle geometry and stuff like that affects that, because a lot of my beers, unless I'm trying to darken them, like if I just use like a base malt that's pretty light, my beers are always super light. So yeah, it's real light. It's got a bit of a head on it. When I poured it at first, it was much better, but it's died away. I was coming back upstairs and starting my camera off to record. But it does stick around. You get a little bit at the top. It's probably not the ideal glass. This glass does have a bit of like etching in the bottom as like a nucleation point, but I've tried it in like a different glass I have that's got more of a nucleation point at the bottom, and you do get a bit better head that sticks around then. And obviously, if you're in a pub or a restaurant or something, drinking a pint, then chances are it's going to have quite a lot of like nucleation points on the bottom, because I always find like a lot of glasses from pubs and stuff do. Yeah, anyway, I've gone to aroma now. Not a lot really. Like a slight graininess, like maybe even a slight sweet graininess. Tiny hint of sulphur, which is good. That's sort of what I'm looking for in a lager. Not picking up anything from the Saaz. Yeah, no like really like hoppy, spicy, earthy smell or anything like that. So, going on to the mouthfeel. Yeah, I mean, it's light. It's definitely got that lager crispness that, for me, that only comes with time. This has been in the keg for about a month now. Well, it's been on the keg on CO2 for about a month. I kegged this beer, put it in my fermentation chamber as cold as I dared for a few days, so around 0-ish, to try and drop it out a bit. I find this as well. I find it with Browsol, which is a fining that it's like similar to what a lot of professional brewers use. It's a silicon-based fining, and it works pretty well as far as I can tell. Yeah, pretty light, but it's definitely reminds me of a commercial lager, or like Asahi, like I'm aiming for. Funny thing is though, I do think it feels a bit less carbonated, and at the moment I've got I only did this a day or so ago, so it won't be up to that yet, but it was up at 16 psi, and I've turned up to 18 now. I know I should probably use a carbonation chart and actually check, but no, I haven't. I'm just adjusting the psi on the regulator, so it doesn't feel quite. Don't get me wrong, it's very carbonated, but it doesn't feel as carbonated as one you'd get served to you like in a pub or restaurant. But yeah, I'll go on to tasting the beer now. So yeah, it's a really clean taste, like a slight acidity to it. Like, I kind of picked that up in lagers myself. It's got like a very subtle sweet grainy taste, kind of like a bit of spicy, herby, earthy taste from the Saaz, like a typical Saaz taste, but not massively hoppy. And it didn't have a humongous deal of hops in, but it did have 60 grams of Saaz in the boil, so I wouldn't say that's a tiny amount for a lager. But yeah, you don't pick those up too much, but they are there. Yeah, maybe like that tiny slight sulphurous carries over to the taste as well, which is right for a lager. Yeah, it's worked out pretty good beer. I think I'm going to burp a lot, so it can't be that poorly carbonated. But yeah, it's worked out a pretty good beer, and I think it's what I aim to achieve. It's, funnily enough, I thought I'd have something like this on keg and absolutely rip through it and not be able to stop drinking it, but no. You have a few and then you get a bit bored. But I suppose that's, if you were drinking macro lager for the taste, you are going to get pretty bored. So yeah, it's a perfectly good beer. I've not really had any more macro lager drinking friends around who've tried it, or family or anything. My partner enjoys it, but she's kind of on a bit of a kick of not enjoying beer at the minute, which is not ideal when I've just brewed up a keg I was hoping she'd enjoy, but oh well, more for me. Yeah. Using the Jasmine Rice, I don't think added anything, beyond just a rice cleanness. I don't think it was any different to using flaked rice or anything like that. To be honest with you, I don't think I'd ever bother using actual rice again, and I'd just use flaked rice, because I've made a beer with flaked rice before, which is also a Japanese lager, but that one I used Sriracha Ace hops, and I kind of was thinking, Japanese lager, and in my mind I just had Asahi because that's the main one I've tried, and then that Japanese lager was really good, but it didn't taste like Asahi, which is the only one I really knew. So I was like, it doesn't really taste like a Japanese rice lager. But actually, I think that one was better because of the Sriracha Ace added more characters, a bit of a lemony taste to it. But the flaked rice and then using the actual rice, to me, is identical. I haven't got those beers side by side, but I don't think it's worth the hassle of using rice. I think flaked rice, just chuck it straight in the mash and don't worry about it. So yeah, overall, would I brew this again? Yeah, I don't see why not. It'd be pretty good for a party or something. I think probably using rice is maybe even, I don't know what flake rice costs, to be honest, thinking about it, but I think using actual rice is a bit more of an expensive thing to chuck in your grain bill, but I think it works out much more money. But it wasn't an expensive beer to make, which is always a bonus, so it's a good recipe just to chuck in a keg and give out to your mates at a party or something. So yeah. Cheers.